Hello. Today, for the conversations, we have an incredible personality with us. He is a writer, he is a playwright, he is a musician, he is an academic, he is an associate professor at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. And as Dr. Bimol Akoijjam himself says, he is now a politician. He represents Inner Manipur with an overwhelming majority of 1 lakh votes. So, we'll start with your role as politician, sir. What is the current reality there? What is the reality that Manipur is facing right now?
The unfortunate incident that got unfolded on 3rd of May in 2024, and many of us thought that it will subside within a couple of days, so maximum 1 week, the state will restore normalcy in the state, but that did not happen. And worse, it lingered on, and even today the situation is more or less the same. Arsons and firing and still going on, and people are divided, including for the first time in this country, perhaps, the bureaucracy is divided. The chief minister cannot go to a particular place if you belong to an X community. Even if you are a civil servant, you don't get posted in the Y community's area, or vice versa, the other also. That this is completely unacceptable, but this has been allowed to happen even today as I talk to you. It's the same thing is going on, and there are 60,000 people linguisting in relief camps. Incidentally, I had an experience of working on partition studies some years ago when I was working in CSDS. And the kind of case studies that I have gone through, in the partition of 1947, you have the same case, experiences in the camp and so on. Territory being marked out as belonging to this community by driving out one member of the community from another member's community. That's the situations at the moment.
So, where did it start? Like you said that when it started, it was expecting to be maybe a couple of weeks it will subside. So, how did it start? Because it for the rest of the country, it has been portrayed as an ethnic conflict. Is it just the ethnic
No, I think, let me put it this way, there are various factors are implicated, but the state has inter-community estrangements, and besides the confrontation between the Indian state and the political armed groups who were not happy with the manner in which Manipur was merged in 1949. So this has been the theater of armed conflict, and also the Naga nationalist movement in the then neighboring Naga hills of Assam got spillover effects in our state, especially in the northern part of the state. And similarly, the Mizo movement and the Chin movement in Myanmar all got spillover effect in our southern side of the state. So Manipur has been a theater of various kinds of conflicts, of violent conflicts. So that serves the background. But this conflict is unique. It has its own character. Although some of those earlier factors get involved. So take, for instance, as many authors have pointed it out, many of these Kuki armed groups have been accused by various observers, including well-known journalists like, Suvir Bhaumik, that these have been propped up by the Indian security agencies to fight the Naga armed groups or the political armed groups of Manipur, So this is a complex phenomenon. But this particular latest conflict has newer dimensions, such as there is issue of illicit drug, including trafficking as well as plantation of poppy. The Golden Triangle again is spilled over to Manipur in the last 1 decade or so. That drug mafia There must be, and I mean, we can very well expect local elements to be involved here, but we should not also forget that there is an international dimensions to this one. That issue also got implicated. The immediate thing would be there could be this political one-upmanship. First time, these two districts, Churachampur and Fezrol, the southern part, none of the MLAs who got elected from that area found their place in the cabinet. For the first time, you don't have a cabinet. So there must be bickering of the political kind. That also got involved. But the most crucial thing is that there has been an ethno-nationalist mobilization based on certain identities, which also has a connection with a larger agenda of an independent Kuki state called Zalingam, for example, which involved territories from India as well as Myanmar. It has connections with that, this mobilization. So as a kind of a halfway home, some of these people have been asking for a separate administration or Kuki states within the Indian state first. Okay. But this has a larger mobilization. You can see literatures on this one. That mobilization surfaced in 2015 again in the violence that had happened in Churachandpur. And the same thing happened this time. So barely within 48 hours and a couple of days, some of these political elites started talking about separate administration rather than appealing for calm and peace, which you expect politicians to do it. And some of these scholars started throwing out terms like ethnic cleansing within 48 hours of the incident. Very irresponsible and factually incorrect expression to be used for the kind of violence that have occurred in the first couple of hours or the couple of days. So this is that nature. What was the most amazing and disappointing part at the same time is that the Indian state has allowed this thing to happen and linger on. This has never happened in the history of this country. And still, you see, the prime ministers did not visit. When such a massive tragedy, unprecedented in this country, not only in Manipur, 60,000 people, homeless, villages have been wiped out, properties destroyed, more than 200 people killed, bureaucracy splitted. It's a serious constitutional or otherwise crisis. Yet the prime ministers think that he does not need to go there. I'm happy that he came to Kerala to express solidarity. Right. He went to Orissa when the train accident happened, just a month after the violence started in Manipur. He has visited Ukraine. And he's the prime minister of the country, and he thinks, that's why in my parliamentary speech I said, what you are trying to tell us is that you don't matter in this country. You may have Ashok Chakra winner, I mentioned one major, if you remember. He died in Afghanistan, grappling with Al-Qaeda, trying to save Indian there, diplomatic or other staff. Major Jotin, he was awarded Ashok Chakra. Then there is another major way back in 1987 who got Veer Chakra, fighting LTTE in 1987 during IPK. It was peacekeeping force.
Yeah. So
all this thing I mentioned in the parliament just to remind the prime minister that what he is doing, call it arrogance or otherwise, it's not going to be good. The kind of feeling that people will have. I wish that the people's reaction response confined to BJP. If it translates into a feeling against the country because he is the prime minister, he is going to give impetus to the armed insurgency all over again. And I think the rest of the country should take this word very seriously. It is unacceptable. If he is the chief minister of Gujarat, I would not have, and anybody would not have asked for this. But since he is the prime minister of the country, he must know that this particular kind of an attitude is not good for the
Okay.
country.
So, in a way, the reality of Manipur has not been properly presented before the parliament. Even the instrument of accession that you brought it up for the
Yeah.
first time, probably in the Indian parliament. Uh, and also, on the other hand, you mentioned the complexities involved in the issue right now, which is not just an ethnic conflict between
Yeah.
two groups. Multiple factors are coming into play in Manipur. So, understanding that complexity from the ground realities is very important, and more important is presenting it in the Indian Parliament. So, does the overwhelming majority of 1 lakh, which is unprecedented in Manipur, usually they win a margin for 15 to 30,000, and you got a
That's
1 lakh plus
10, or almost 10,000, 1,10,000.
the 1 lakh 10,000 margin. So, does that mean the people of Manipur want a change? People want Manipur want to be heard.
Yeah, that's what, this is not a win for me. It's a win for the people who have been told that you don't matter in this country, you are nothing. So that people wanted to say that we are somebody, we are something, and I have to remind the government as well as our parliament that how this country came into being. As a civilizational entity, we may be very old, but as a political community, we are new. As some of the leading scholars in this country said, that we were born as a political community only in 1947. And Rahulji, aptly described, reminding these people that India is a union of states. We come together, it is coming together to form this political community and a state called India. I had to remind them, that's what I said, Manipur was one entity that came together to constitute the Indian state. And incidentally, Cochin and Travancore was one of those elements which also came together. So this coming together of different entities to constitute India, one should remember that, don't neglect one of these entities. Indiraji had this, that human side and political statesmanship when she said, remember what happened in the then is Pakistan. People have been uprooted and violence, don't expect me to keep quiet and watch. That's the kind of a responsibility as a global leader. And what's happening in Manipur and the way the Prime Minister is doing, he must be told this is not even a global issue, this is part of India. And that's what I've been trying to remind him and his party.
So your page says that you joined politics in 2023, which you are a recent entrant into politics, and you have been doing remarkably well in Indian Parliament, raising the issue. At the same time, as a filmmaker, you have been trying to portray the realities of Manipur, because your new film, which had its world premiere at the Kadamakudy International Film Festival, which you inaugurated the other day, it speaks about the reality of Manipur, the absurdities of life, how the life and death coexist. In a way, death become more common among the normal life.
True.
So, can you speak about the film Kumbh Hai?
All my films deal with this political crisis, of layered natures and so on. And in this, I was trying to take, including me as an academic or as a filmmaker, that what we are observing, so we should not think ourselves only as an observer. We are part of the observe. And that's the kind of a relationship. That's why I was juxtaposing Gyaneshwar, the theatre director, and his younger brother Jeevan. Even the name, I deliberately called one as a Gyaneshwar. It's more like an intellect part.
Enlightenment.
And, who can see and understand things, that kind of an intellect. And Jeevan, his younger brother, signifies
Life.
Life. And his alias, as you can see in the news, he said is Punshiva. That is in Manipuri word for associated with life. So I was trying to look at it because you can see my friend Joshi described it very aptly when he says it's a compact reality that I was trying to put in all the meso-scene in the film. If you once you experience and then sit down again and watch, even the scroll on the television news will have those contradictions, that protests against APSPA, then International Film Festival doing on Aribam Sham Sharma, CBI inquiry coming in, and some sports stars winning medals in global. That's Manipur. Everything is there as the news was going on, in that sense. Or even when I shoot, when the guy on the bike was going, you can see the crematorium all the time behind. That's a lurking threat to life. As life exists, death is like the other side of that. That's what I constantly trying to remind. So
It's always present there.
it's always there. That's what in my other film, the feature film, there is the last song which I composed and sung. It also says it's like you are that crab in the what do you call port. You are like that. Anytime you can be picked up and killed, and in between you also drag down each other. That kind of a metaphor I use in that song in my other film, the feature film, 2014. These are the ways where, like the way I write articles in newspaper or academic writing. So film for me is one medium through which I can express using the cinematic language the same reality that I confront and my feelings particularly.
In Kumbhai, you try to bluff or play with the audience perception around reality and real and unreal.
That's what it.
And where in the 2014 film, you think you play with the word love. Whereas
Even there's an element. I love, I quoted Satyajit Ray in the dialogue in this film. What is a documentary film and what is the feature film is very interesting. This sensibility comes to me from theatre. There's a very well-known, I also fortunate to have been associated in my life with him, Kanhailal. In his theatre. He tries to break this, the wall between the spectator and the spectacle, the performer and the spectator. In cinema, what we call it, the fourth wall. You try to break it. This idea is very fascinating to me. And in fact, I tried my hand. It was a disaster though. NSD, National School of Drama, supported me, and in 2002, I had my first play called Azadi Ki Khamosya on partition violence of 1947. There also what I did is that the first rioting scene, it was not on the stage. I enacted it outside the theater on both sides as well as in the lobby. People beating up bamboo and shouting and this religious slogan and kill kind of thing. So I was sitting at the back of the theater and the audience got up, look around thinking that some violence has happened outside the theater, and I make them to run towards the proscenium from the wing side and the enactment starts. I love this idea of breaking the fourth wall, and the same thing in my academic teaching. I kept on reminding my student that our intellectual life, your theories and concept, education should be an active conversation between life and letter. Until unless you allow your concepts and theories don't have a conversation with your real life experiences, those knowledge will be bogus, it will be shallow. And so I love this idea of real and unreal. So besides the philosophical thing that I shared yesterday during the interactions with the audience, about what is life, who we are, what do you know, what physicists through their cosmology, what is that they know about universe, our existence. Carl Sagan, Voyager's picture I was sharing with that dot, These are fascinating things about life. So that's the way I do it. In academics, my political commitment, it comes through. So cinema is another medium through which I use the cinematic language to say and express the same thing.
And that brings us to your academic career. You are an associate professor at JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University. You can experience that the academic scene in India is changing and changing drastically, especially in an elite,
in my university,
in a premier university like JNU. So how do you view this? How do you respond to this?
See, this is my 30th or 31st year as a professional academic. I started in Delhi University. When we were students in the 80s, you remember that there was Cold War, Soviet Union was still around. When I was doing PhD, I think Soviet Union started collapsing that time. Early 90, I think 91 it collapsed. At 91, 92, I started teaching in the early 90s. The society and the polity was different. I think few cars you get to see, but to see those days, and the liberalizations, its impact, and multiple airlines, multiple television networks. That was a transformative moment, and we are far more integrated into the global culture and global economy today. So the students' composition have changed that way. There are various layers of transformation is happening. And I think along with that, the purpose of education and what people look at education per se, I think that also is transforming slowly. But what has transformed since the Modi came to power is the overall sense of freedom that as a liberal society and so on. I get the feeling that that has eroded gradually in one form or the other, and that I could sense that being reflected in the campus culture as well. But we should know that there is, beyond the party line, as I was talking about, the socio-economic and political ambience is changing. So the nature of education and its place in society has also been changing. It's not only because of the BJP party coming into the scene. So there has already been a shift in the way we understand education, especially higher education also. Within this general shift, my university, JNU, it is a unique experiment. How there's a background, if I can take 1 minute. 1960s, there was a churning, particularly in social sciences, and people started saying, like, we should have our own theories to deal with our Rajni Kothari, whom I'm fortunate to have met, and CSDS was founded by him. Institutions like ICSSR to finance social science research, and that kind of a churning in this country. JNU is a reflection of that churning. I had conversation with Rajni Kothari on this. He has written this in his memoir. I'm fortunate he gave me 2 chapters of his memoir before it was published. He asked me to check it. That time I was in CSS. He was one of the men behind the idea of JNU. In fact, CSDS started before, in 63. So Center for the Study of Developing Society is the name. So it is his signature that in JNU we don't say department. The Department of Sociology, Department of Political Science. We say Center for the Study of Social System is what my center is. Then Center for Political Studies, Center for Historical Studies. This is Kothari's signature.
There are no departments, there are centers.
So the centers. And it's a study. In JNU is where we are supposed to study and teach the students, and it is a dynamic, continuous process, and it is marked by interdisciplinarity in the sense that, see, I'm a trained psychologist. I ended up teaching sociology, in last 16 years, because it's an interface between psychology and sociology called social psychology, and I came in that. So I teach social and political, only in name, but in content, I teach all kinds of papers now in the center. So in CSS, I work more on history and political science. So I have a very checkered, unconventional identity. I barely taught psychology for 5 years out of that 31 years of my life. And I have only checked 1 thesis in psychology. Rest is majorly political science, followed by history, now increasingly sociology in the last 16 years. So JNU has that character. So you will have a sociologist in political science, a sociologist, a very well-known professor, Satish Sabrawal in history, was a sociologist. So you have like this economics, political science, and supposed to do. Now that experiment has faded away. If failure is too strong a word. But my center still has. We have anthropologists, psychologists, in my center. So that was an experiment. And each faculty is free to design the course. So what I do in JNU is that I design the course, I teach, and I evaluate. Unlike other universities, you have a group of teachers setting the question paper, a group of teachers setting the syllabus, and one group of teachers delivering it. It's all centered around teachers. So we're supposed to constantly evolve. We do that. So this year I teach the same paper. I'll bring in some new element in the next semester, and sometimes change the
To keep on
reading.
evolving.
That's the beauty of JNU. It has a very vibrant liberal cultures. I think people hated this experiment, it seems. So they tried to destroy JNU, painted it as anti-national universities. You must know that JNU's contribution to the national life is immense in bureaucracy, in academia, or otherwise. JNU contribution is, including Modi's, is on government. You have the foreign minister and the finance minister is a JNUite. But unfortunately, some people have played out and tried to bring down this image of such a premier institute. I've seen that crisis in the campus, and I felt really bad about it, because I think this is one of a kind university. People should have model like the Navodaya school. I wish that you should have created more JNU, like more aims. People should have said we need to create more JNUs, but instead of saying that you have killed, you try to kill this university. It's very unfortunate. That's the sin that I think I've sinned.
So the present scenario, it is like disinformation is the main tool being employed to destroy movements like JNU or break the communities. That's why maybe at the inaugural address at the Kadamakudy International Festival, you stressed upon the need or the necessity to have community-based networks where strong communities can survive and communicate and uphold the values. So is that the way out for a strife-ridden place like Manipur, where you need communities, stronger communities, evolve and protect the information, the right information, dissemination of information?
Yes. It's not what some people will call a traditional romanticism. If I talk about village and community life, I'm not talking in that romantic sense of a community. In Ferdinand Torres' expression, Gemen Schwaf is not what I'm talking. A community, as I think it is people like Eric Fromm had addressed this. The old form of community and modern form of communities are bound to be different, because we have individuated selves. Individualism has come. So what happened is, our community is of coming together of individuals, and we work together, respecting the individualism. At the same time, you know that non-alienated individual is the one who has a sense of affiliation with the community, a group life, but not succumb one's own individuality under that particular, community form of life. So I love this idea of a modern community. I don't like this too individuated things, and there are lovely values which we can still reinvent in our modern times, what was in our villages and others. So it is community taking care of itself it will make hell of a difference. In psychology, for instance, we used to say that one Ramu Kaka in some Rampur village may not require a psychiatrist or a psychologist. The stress level is far higher in the urban sector. When too individuated, you don't have a proper relationship. That is why you need psychologists and psychiatrists. So much of in fact, two of the greatest killer, hypertension and depression in the world WHO's assessment. These are all related to lifestyle. These are part of the lifestyle diseases. And I think, therefore, it's important for us to explore and reinvent our community forms of life, which will be healthier, for each one of us. In the Aristotelian sense of the political as a search for a good life, I would suggest that those attempt to have these community life, forms of life, reinvent, is the good life for me. That's why I was appealing, never succumb to this urban. This is a lovely place, you know. I mean, I don't want it to be spoiled through urbanizations and villages and so on. I mean, these 9 islands I was told yesterday, and I was reminding, we are also 9 ranges we often talk about in Manipur. So I think that's everywhere. In Residents Welfare Association in the urban sector, I think there also we must constantly evolve these community forms of life, and that's the way I visualize our search for a good life. The politics in the Aristotelian sense should be driven by that. So some people try to destroy this, they make you dependent on larger investment companies, drugs, medicines. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And whatever the party decides is a gospel truth kind of a position. That's why any sense of community strong. JNU is one side where the sense of a JNUite and JNU as a community is very strong. I think people try to destroy that. You may be right. That could be one of the reasons.
I remember you mentioning about the 9 islands of Kadamakudy, care should be taken not to connect the islands by road or by bridges.
Yeah, that's my dream. You should connect by bridge, which can be open up for boats to go.
Because
the same thing in Manipur, we had 2 lovely islands, Thanga. It's now connected like here.
By filling up the water body.
Filling up the. I would wish that there's a lovely bridge, and in between you have an opening where the boat can go through. That would have been lovely. The idea of being an island.
Okay. Retain the idea of the island and at the same time be connected
with that. Okay. But don't convert into a non-island entity by connecting it by land, that kind of thing.
Okay, winding up the conversation, it has been an incredible conversation that freewheeling through your career as an academic, as a playwright, as a filmmaker, and as a politician. And winding up, what are the lessons that you are taking back home from Kadamakudy, these islands, these 9 islands? Because we were really fortunate to have you here to inaugurate the first edition of Kadamakudy International Film Festival. You brought in a different perspective altogether for this village, that they are now aware that there is another reality, which is Indian. They have not been exposed to it. Your film and your conversations have opened up a new avenue for them, new thought for them. So for you, what has been the Kadamakudy experience, and what are you taking back with you?
The first thing is the village and the ideal lakes, the fresh air. We have it, but slowly we're losing that. That's, I think, the need to protect. And incidentally, I have been also toying with the idea of a film festival for more than a decade now, to design something very unique. So I get that idea from this experience here. So I might implement another mirror image of this festival. And I wish, I've been telling that this festival should also grow, should be part of the global circuit of festivals. But it should have its niche marked out very clearly. As your organizers have said, you people like you have said, yes, I was very fascinated. This elitist should not dominate it. Let people who make films and the grassroots stories, both in terms of the production as well as the content. But we can have a segment where renowned art directors, we can have a retrospect on them. But the core thrust of the festival should not be diluted with those things. It should have that rooted to the community life, both in content and production of films. Those films must be emphasized. It could be film made in Japan, Korea, or US, but it must be a film which is both in terms of its content and the production, is rooted to the community life. I think that will mark out this festival. That's the way I see this festival. That's the suggestion I've given you also. And stick to that one, and then it will have its own place in the international film festival circuit. I will try to do something of a similar kind, suitable for my place.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Bimol Akoijjam, for this conversation. We do look forward to having more such visits from your side and more such enlightening conversations.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks.